What is the difference between brute force and brand force? That's what I want to cover in today's video. If you're new and watching this for the first time, my name's Alex. I'm a creative business owner. And on this channel, I'm documenting the journey of both a creative business owner. We've also launched a brand new video series, which we're about episode 4 into now, on starting a creative business completely from scratch and building it into a profitable creative business, showing you at home, if you're a creative freelancer, founder, agency owner, showing you exactly step by step how to follow something we're calling the 5 profit pillar framework to build a creative business that you learn to love to own and also love to grow. There are so many creators out there who have fallen into the trap of believing the creative industry's big lies that to become profitable, you've got to surrender your creativity, or to retain creativity means to be stubborn and you compromise the potential of your profitability. There's so much in it that we've committed to building a business from scratch, launching something called Vera Studio, which is a brand studio for property developers. We've already gone through the process of what's our offer, who are we serving, how are we getting to them, how to book meetings, how to prepare proposals, and we've even signed our first customer. And in an episode we're going to be releasing in the next couple of days, we're going to show you episode 5, walking through our official price guide of our services that are now locked and loaded, and our journey and process of launching to the market. So make sure if you're following this channel for the first time and any of that interests you, subscribe, like, follow along for the series, and even go and watch episode 1 now. And if you're a subscriber to this channel already and you've been following this face and this voice, then today's video is going to be slightly different. Today I want to talk about what I introduced before, the idea between brute force and brand force. And so this has kind of come out of the journey of building Vera, but also Render Studio, which is my core business, understanding this idea that brute force is the ability to force your offer or force your business or service into the market or into the hands of prospects, and sort of through sheer just effort and passion and determination, also using practical things like ads or cold outreach, door knocking, whatever forceful mechanism you're using. It's this idea that I can just force my service into the market and win jobs. And I'm not here to say that brute force doesn't work. What I want to do is make the distinction between and just show you the pros and cons of brute force entry into the market and brand force. And I want to talk a little bit about brand force in a second. But let's talk about brute force. Brute force is actually a process and a strategy that I often use every single time that I launch a brand new service within an existing company or when I launch a brand new business. And I have launched a few businesses using this exact strategy. Brute force for me, as my background is in brand and paid advertising, I will launch paid ads almost immediately because they're super fast. Through brute force, I can get in front of leads, prospects, customers, book meetings with them, talk to them in emails, however it is. It's this instant. When we launch campaigns, it can be within an hour, within a couple of hours, you can have a lead. Now, whether they're bad leads or not, that's actually good data because you're finding that out super early on and not having to wait on this long-term strategy or other mechanisms or just delaying taking action to see whether your service is actually viable or not. And so brute force has its place and can be really helpful. I've used it to book 30 meetings with property developers and converting 4 or 5 of them into clients within the space of 30 or 40 days. Like, brute force can work, but you'll find that the efficiency and the effectiveness of brute force strategies begin to taper off, especially as you start to reach a point where you've addressed a lot of your addressable market. Like in startup world, we talk about TAM, T-A-M, total addressable market. If you start to get to the thresholds of that market because you're using aggressive brute force strategies like cold outreach, cold email, door knocking, cold loom outreach, ads, whatever it is, if it's aggressive, you do get to this point where you're playing a volume game and your message can become sparse and fast spread. And you'll get conversions, you'll get wins, but you will get to a point where brute force just isn't enough to build a substantial business that's built with dream customers. A lot of the time, brute force attracts people who are ready to buy now, but what you'll find is some of your dream customers aren't looking to buy now. They're wanting to buy with intent and consideration. And so that's when brand force really takes place. But I want to just close off this brute force. Brute force, the pro to brute force is that it is fast. You can validate quickly. You can get leads, calls, feedback. And the ideal outcome is that you can get customers through this mechanism. And I'm actually a believer of a hybrid strategy, which I'll talk about later as well, of having brute and brand force working together. But brute force is great if you need to validate a service, get quick wins, and just understand, is my service valuable? Do I need to tweak the offer? Is this business even worth launching? All of these things can really help. It can also be a real pro on cash flow, because if you win deals early on, then it can help you have the space and the foundation to invest in not only investing financially, but invest with your headspace on what the best move is next, which might be brand force. The cons to brute force is that you can hit the market quite fast, but like I said, you can get to the outer rims of that total addressable market and you can sort of exhaust those means of everyone who's ready to buy now. And then you're needing to figure out ways to keep customers happy, find more of those customers maybe in other markets, maybe go back to your database and sell them more. But you can get into a bit of a brute sales cycle, which relies heavily on salespeople, better offers, better pricing. And essentially, you can become a bloated company with low margins if you're always selling people who are ready now and you're not thinking about warming up, nurturing, and building a brand that can actually attract customers who need, like I said before, intent-based decisions or considerations before they decide to invest, which can lead to better customers. So anyway, that's brute force and where it plays its part. Now, brand force gets me really excited, because brute force can be my first thought, and I really back it as a first strategy to get validation. No one needs to waste time. So saving time on getting customers does buy you a better future, because then you've got, like I said, space to invest and money to invest in the next steps that will grow your brand. Now, brand force is slightly different. Brand force is the idea that you can build a brand around your business, a brand around your service, that actually becomes the foundation and the reason customers start to get attracted to you. And so the first distinction I want to make is that brute force is when you go to customers. Brand force is when customers start coming to you. We've seen this in Render Studio, and we've even, which is pretty lucky, seeing it in the early days of Vera Studio because of the brand and the offer and the positioning that we've worked on already. We've started to attract some customers through the inbox, and we haven't even launched our marketing properly. But with Render Studio as an example, at the start, we ran ads, we hit our network, we used brute force. It was great. We booked meetings, we booked jobs, we started to validate the offer. Every time we delivered something, we tweaked our offer, tweaked our onboarding, really worked on the 5 pillars. And that was awesome. But there was a tipping point where we started to really invest in brand. And for us, that was investing in our work. So making sure every project that we did was amazing to the best of our ability and trying to punch above. If you've read James Clear in the Atomic Habits book, you understand the idea of the 1% principle of getting 1% better every time that you do something. And so for us, that's been one of our underpinning foundations in our culture and our values at Render Studio, for our team to understand that every project that we deliver, we're trying to get just that 1% better. Because now we've delivered close on hundreds of projects, we're like hundreds of percents better. And I can actually see that. Even though that was terrible English, I can see how focusing on getting better every single time has had a compounding effect. But our brand force started to grow because our work started to get noticed. The way that we were delivering work started to get noticed. Testimonials that we started to capture and share started to build a brand, a recognition of our values, of the way that we treat our customers, of the way that we deliver our projects, the quality of our work, the caliber of the customers we started to attract. This started to build what I'm calling a brand force. And this is where companies usually start to pick up massive momentum, because you're not just relying on going to customers, but customers start coming to you. And this is the largest pro of brand force that outweighs any brute force strategy you will ever have, because brand force is when you have got to a point where you have built a narrative and a story and a track record around your business that customers are now aspiring to work with you. We've found that all of our dream customers that we now work with approached us. And that was a really significant shift for us, is that all of our first customers, and a lot of them are great, came through brute force. But all of our best customers have always come through our brand force, like a gravitational pull around our company that has made us appealing. We've had, even the ones who haven't converted into customers, we have had some of the best property developers across New Zealand inquire through our services. All of the biggest names, group home builders, property developers, townhouse developers, the works have inquired through us. And not all of them have converted. I'm not saying that brand force is a magic pill, but the ones who have converted have come through that mechanism. So I wanted to challenge you on that today. Is what are you using right now? Are you using brute force? Are you using brand force? Are you using both? Or maybe you're using none. And the good news is, no matter what you just voted for in your head, there is a next step for you. The next step, if you're using brute force, is to now recognize that brute force works to get quick wins, but a long-term, substantial company is built through brand force, because you become a business that is known, recognized, and becomes an aspiring service to work with. Now, I believe in having a hybrid. So the pros to brand force is that customers come to you. The cons to brand force is just that it does take time. Brand force is not something that you can launch out of the gate, because brand, by definition, are the values, the principles, the things that come to mind when people think about your company. That's brand. Brand is not branding. I'll cover that on another video. Branding is like your logo, your website, your sign writing, your uniforms, all that kind of stuff. Brand is, how do people think about you when your business comes to mind? If someone was to ask you, what do you think about Render Studio? What would they say? That's brand. It's what you've become known for. And so the con is that you can't get that out of the gate, but it is something that you should start from day one. And so brute force and brand force are not things that should compete. They are things that should actually collaborate. They should actually come together on. And that's what I wanted to encourage you in this video. If there's one thing you could get from this video, it would be to understand the importance and the place for brute force, brand force, and where they do come together. Because what gets really exciting, and it's something that we're getting now with Render Studio, is that once you've nailed brute force, so you've got customers coming in, you're validating your service, you're pitching your offer, you're making sales, that's also given you more and more opportunity to refine your delivery, refine your onboarding, learn how to retain customers and get happy customers. That's all awesome. Then you want to shift to brand force, where you're building a awareness and acknowledgement of the values that you hold and the results that you deliver, so that customers can start coming to you. The bonus part to this video, and what I'm talking about a hybrid model, is that once you've figured out how to get customers through brute force, ads, outreach, whatever it is, something that's fast and effective, and you've started to build a brand that's known, recognized, and acknowledged for the reasons that you want to be known for: good service, great results, good communication, easy process, all of those kind of things, then you can start to use the testimonies from your brand. So when customers are happy, you're able to use those testimonies as collateral, as assets for your brute force strategies. And this is where it really starts to pop. Running ad campaigns, outreach campaigns, using the testimonies from your aspirational clients, your dream clients' experience, and using that in the brute force, you start to get the flywheel of customer acquisition, which has worked really well for Render Studio and will work really well for Vero Studio once we've wrapped up our first project, and it could work for you. Now, how do you implement this? You need to understand, how do you brute force and use strategies in your company right now? Because brute force is all about what could you do today. So is it Loom video outreach? Is it cold DMs? Is it cold calling? Is it door knocking, visiting businesses? Or is it running ad campaigns to get leads quick? You need to figure out which one of those you're going to do and commit to it for a good period of time and be aggressive about it. It's called brute force for a reason. If you're too slack, like you send 5 emails a day or you run an ad for $20, like that's not brute force. That's just like pathetic. So brute force does have to, that's the caveat, it does need that aggression behind it. Then figuring out what's brand force to you. What are the things that you want to become known for, or are you already known for, that you should be wrapping up into marketing assets to then put into your brute force campaigns? These are things that you can understand today. If you need help with it, if you've got any questions, if you've got thoughts, or maybe I misspoke or talked too fast, if there's anything that you want to learn more about, please, in the comments below this video, let me know what you have on your mind, and I will do my best to answer you either in the comments, or I'll film a video specifically for you, how special, to help you become a profitable creative. Thanks guys, it was a great video. Brute force, brand force, how they work together. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Share this video if there's a creative out there that needs to see this, and I will see you in the next video.